Welcome to Left in Kentucky, the podcast of Indivisible, Northern Kentucky. Hello, everybody, and welcome back for our next episode of Left in Kentucky. In this lovely month of February, you know, the month of January seemed to last about a year, so... It was the never-ending January, even though it never really got cold.
I feel like we've already lived a whole year in just this month.
Yeah, it does feel that way, doesn't it? Especially the last couple of weeks. Every day has been just like a month.
Australia's on fire, and there's this virus, and why don't we do an impeachment in there?
Oh my gosh, it's just been horrifying. So, but anyway, we are back. We made it. We made it to February. And joining us, of course, you have me, your host, Roberto Henriquez, and also we have Miss Amy Ferguson.
Hello.
And joining us via the telephone, Miss Ann Dickerson.
Hey, everybody.
We missed you last time. I missed your voice.
Aw, thank you. I missed you guys, too.
We did. We miss it when you're not here. And you're still not here, but at least you're joining us by phone, so... It's kind of like you're here.
We'll take the half a cup and be happy.
The cup is half full.
There you
go. So every episode,
like, what was that product? A little dab will do you.
Yeah. There you go. So we start off always with our lovely Cow Patty Awards. Ann, why don't you start us off with your Cow Patty?
I have no choice, none, because nobody deserves it more. Mine goes to Savannah Maddox. Oh, God. She is our representative for, I forget what House district that is out there in Grant County. But her license to hate and this flurry of anti-trans children bills in coordination, I guess it should be a tag team one this time around, in coordination with Robbie Mills in the Senate, what they're doing is it's reprehensible. It's absolutely reprehensible. She's now taken on the ability, the responsibility for dictating what doctors can and can't do, for supreme parental rights. Who knows doesn't matter if these kids are being abused, doesn't matter what their, mental health situation is, got to tell the parents. And she's also, written bills that offer a license for school personnel or anybody else to be openly hateful about the issues that are affecting these kids. So, personally, you wouldn't catch me allowing one of my kids around her or grandkids 10-foot pole, but she is definitely my Cow Patty Award winner this week.
Well deserved.
I'm not sure a Cow Patty's strong enough for that, but that's all we have right now. So.
Well, that's true.
I could say something about that, but Yeah,
we probably shouldn't.
I don't want to be graphic on the podcast.
We could come up with a new name that would be more apropos for her.
Probably could.
Probably could. So, all right. But before we do that, we'll just move on.
Right. There's so many people that deserve Cow Patties.
Who do you have in your sights?
So, once again, Mr. Thomas Massie, our congressman, has earned my pick for Cow Patty Award. Congratulations, Mr. Massie, for showing your pathetic need to solicit Trump's attention by running ads in the Mar-a-Lago market. It's disgusting how beholden all these Republicans are to the Trump cult, and know that they can't get elected without them. So it's kind of funny to see Mr. Sassy Massey, kissing the ring.
My God, yes.
And, pulling this stunt where he's become a member of this cult, and what tiny shred of respect I had for the man is gone. So For that and many other things, Thomas Massey has earned my Cow Patty Award.
Yeah, the outsiders, right? Thomas Massey and Rand Paul. All of a sudden, they're cozying up to the Orange Julius.
Well, they don't have any actual ideas,
right?
So they can't run on that.
All right. Well, I guess that means that's up to me now for my Cow Patty Award. My Cow Patty Award, and I'll guarantee you this isn't big enough for the Cow Patty Award, goes to the entire Republican contingent of the Kentucky Senate.
All of y'all.
I think I have to hit this, like, how many are there? There's 50.
A lot.
We're not going to hit it.
It's a whole herd.
But anyway, I'm giving
of cow patties.
I'm giving it to them for passing Senate Bill 2 and moving it on to the House. Senate Bill 2 is the voter ID law, and says that you have to have a picture ID in order to vote. And if you don't have a picture ID, they might give you a provisional ballot if somebody remembers and if they have them handy. And, I hear people say, right, oh, but everybody has a picture ID. No, everybody does not have a picture ID. There are lots of people who do not have picture IDs. They typically are people who are have a difficult time making ends meet. They work jobs where it can be very difficult to get to the polls in the first place, and you're going to make it even more difficult by saying, okay, now you have to go out and get a voter ID, which, they said, well, we made it so that you could get one for free. You still have to get there to get one, and you have to get there during working hours when most people are busy working. So it really doesn't help much. It's one of these laws that our state legislature has decided it's great to pass for issues that don't exist, but we'll pretend like they exist so we can say we did something.
Well, they don't have any ideas, so they have to go with voter suppression.
Yeah.
And keeping people away from the polls. Because when people turn out, liberals win. Yeah. And they can't have that.
That's right.
Yeah. And this whole session has really been turned into, a flurry of just-in-case bills that is a complete joke. But with this voter ID one in particular, I find it striking, absolutely striking, that Morgan McGarvey point blank asked Michael Adams, how many cases of voter ID do we have in Kentucky, or have we had in Kentucky? And his answer was none. He could not cite a single instance, but this is where
a solution, looking for a problem.
Fear-mongering comes in, and the belief in this crap about dead people voting and illegal people voting, all this, oh, jeez. I'm embarrassed that people are so uneducated on the issues that they actually are voting for people to blatantly lie to their faces. That's exactly what they're doing.
And it's not only is this introduced, but it's Senate Bill 2, which means it's one of the highest priority items they could come up with.
Right, exactly. Because we just have this, Kentucky, landlocked in the middle of the country, has just this mass influx. I mean, come on. It's just a joke.
Yeah.
It's just
they're just thinking about their reelection, and that's it.
Right, and they're pandering to federal level fear when there's so many other more important issues in the state of Kentucky to deal with, like the 66,000 homeless children we have.
Yep. It's dog whistle politics, plain and simple.
Neat.
It's just what it is.
We got a lot of cow patties this week.
Yeah. It's stinky in here, man.
It's got its own pasture.
All right. righty, so that wraps it up for our cow patties this week. And in our next segment here on Left in Kentucky, we like to welcome our guest, Miss Nisia Thornton. Nisia currently works as a registered nurse at the University of Cincinnati Medical Center, and prior to that, she worked in mental health, long-term care, retail, and high school English instruction, so an educator and a healthcare worker in our midst. Today she's joining us, give us an overview of LGBT bills currently before the Kentucky General Assembly. Ms. Thornton educates and advocates for LGBT healthcare training for nurses, physicians, and the whole interdisciplinary team. Transgender or non-binary gender care has been a particular focus of hers for the last 4 years. So welcome, Ms. Thornton.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Or Nisia.
It's great to be here. Yeah, I think I'll go with Nisia.
We'll go with Nisia.
I was being a little formal before, but that's the way I am. And may I say, it's really tickles me to be here because I admire these people who do this podcast and the work that they have done and continue to do for our local area and for our state. I came into this scene a little later than they did, and I just continue to be inspired and energized by working with them. So I'm here.
Thank you. It was
You're
very
welcome.
nice.
You're welcome.
So what fun stuff do we have? Not so fun stuff going in the legislation.
And believe you me, working on this sometimes leaves me in a shaking state of anger. But I also call on my inner nerd and my inner introvert to focus in and find out what I can find out. And also, unlike an introvert, I extrovert a lot, communicating with other people about this. I just wanted to say, first of all, that there's 2 sections of information that I'm going to make available to Roberto and all of you through Indivisible, through the Facebook page, and through the podcast. This is information that includes what to do if you want to find out about legislation in the General Assembly, who to talk to, how to communicate with people, and it also includes a simple pathway for how somebody's idea becomes a bill, becomes possibly law. This is important to know because if you do sign up for bill tracking on any of the bills I'm going to talk about or any of the other bills that Northern Kentucky is concerned about, you have a way to track them and plenty of information through our Legislative Research Commission website for contacting these folks. I have called some of the legislators, and I'm always impressed by, first of all, the professionalism of the LRC person who answers the line, as well as knowing that I really can get things through to my legislators. So the bulk of what I want to share with today is about bills that are in the Kentucky General Assembly at present, and these are bills that are concerning LGBT, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender persons, whether it's health care, rights, or other considerations. I wanted to just make 3 points, first of all, because I'm not going to make this just a dry recitation of a lot of bill numbers.
Oh, good.
Yeah, right.
Our listeners love it when we do that.
Yeah.
We'll sit here and rattle off a bunch of numbers. They think they're playing Keno or something.
Really, and it's like guaranteed to tilt your head down to the pillow, especially on a beautiful Sunday afternoon. And, of course, I'm totally ignoring all the Super Bowl fans. So as I've read through this, talked to people, prayed over it, and also wrung my hands over it, I have to remember that when we get in the thick of anything that really deeply concerns us, we have to step back and look at how the folks that we disagree with are making their argument and how we can make a better argument. So 3 pointers, if I may. 1, some Republican and some Libertarian politicians vigorously reject government interference in our lives. And by the way, I know this stuff. I grew up in a household dominated by free market capitalism, only the Wall Street Journal, no network news, and pull yourself up by your own bootstraps fervor. But when it comes to matters of sexuality and gender identity, these politicians, the Republican and Libertarian politicians I referred to before, they want the law all up in our business. So think about that.
Ooh,
Yeah. Watch out for it. It's a contradiction you really can catch somebody out on. So no government bad. On the other hand, they want the government in our schools, in our private homes, in our doctor's office, in our nurse practitioner's office. Doesn't fit. Second pointer, you need to sniff out the underlying assumptions. So one of them, transgender persons are by nature sexual predators. Just a fact. Boys just want to win races. Or guys who are assigned male sex at birth will pose as female in order to beat girls in school athletic competitions. There's another assumption. And
Absurd, yeah.
Yeah. And think about it. Boys want to pose as girls to win races and other athletic contests. And then I want you to check out the assault, murder, and suicide rates in our kids who really are transgender.
mm-hmm.
By the way, one of
Bring
Matt
some tissues.
Bevan's, pardon? Yeah.
Bring some tissues.
And by the way, as some of you may recall, one of the last-ditch efforts at commercials for Matt Bevan's campaign was a extremely inaccurate, slanted video of a poor guy, or the poor girls, losing a race because a guy showed up and ran against them and beat
remember
him.
that.
Yeah.
That's disgusting.
It was just so infuriating. It almost paralyzes you, so watch out for that. Another assumption, one more, though there are quite a few out there. Here's the assumption. Some parents in league with medical professionals are chemically castrating and or surgically mutilating minor children in order to change the child's gender. And as a medical professional, I would say, nope, does not happen.
Why do they keep bringing up, they keep creating things that just don't happen? They're just not real.
Right. And they're scary things. It's hot button stuff. As soon as you say it, people will react to what you said before they will stop and say, really? Is that true? I think I'll talk to a medical professional about that. But it doesn't happen. Because some people are, I think, primed to react in a inflammatory way and say, well, you're not going to chemically castrate my child.
Right. Well, they go for that emotional response.
Yes.
I mean, we see that over and over again, rather than
Well, government through fear.
Right.
I mean,
Yes,
the
yes.
fear angle on any topic that they can take, it can provide a fearful narrative. That's what you're going to hear.
Right.
And that's why it's so important, I think, when any one of us is standing up for someone demonized like this, we have to have a hold of our emotions, step back, and think very clearly. But at the same time, though, we have to share our emotions and our beliefs. I know as a nerdy person and an introvert, I can sometimes be so much up in my head, so cerebral, that I think if I just show them the facts, they'll get it and everything will be great.
Right.
And then I realize if they don't hear my very real passion, emotion, concern, and love for members of my family who are dealing with this, then I'm not going to get through it all.
Right.
So it's a tough balance, I think.
Right.
And then the other point, which ties into this well, is oversimplification. You know, in our day and age, with everything that's available to us and the quick attention span, it is really tough to make an argument, to explain something that takes more than about 1 minute.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, for instance, in support of LGBT and transgender human rights and healthcare, there are medical, psychiatric, social services professionals, and others who have published guidelines, researchers who have published studies, which have undergone the most rigorous testing for bias or inaccuracies. This is not a Cosmo article. And I list some of these in the resources we're going to make available to you all. The problem is we've gotten impatient with reading anything that is longer than a 240-character tweet.
Oh, amen. Preach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's even an expression for it I bumped into recently. Maybe it's been out there a little longer. TL:(DR). Too long, don't read.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, and it's a real cute saying, but it's BS. You need to start yourself on 50 minutes a day and build up from there.
Yeah.
You really can do this thing.
Yeah, it's funny you talk about reading, and it's I've brought it up before on the podcast that Republicans seem to be really good at those short, quick, emotional, one sentence grabbers, and Democrats seem to be really good at 10-page reports.
We're the memers and we're the bloggers.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's,
that's a great way to put it.
Yeah, and we say it in a funny way, but it's, like you said, from generally people on the progressive side of things are like, oh, well, I just need to state all these facts and show all this research, and that's going to convert it. And people are like, no, this may be emotional. This is how I feel about it. I know how I feel.
Right. And when I just ran over the topics of the relevant bills in the General Assembly, I think you'll see that as well, that the linking between transgender or LGBT as a collection of folks, the linkage of that with not Christian, not white, not Kentucky values, through every other loaded value you can think of into there, the linkage is such that as soon as you say one thing, you're right, you have that nearly instantaneous response of, no.
Right.
I'm against that. I'm not going to listen to you.
So let's talk about what are some of the bills that we're seeing in the legislature this General Assembly session.
Yeah, there are 7 bills I picked out, and some of these aren't on the surface. Speaking of oversimplification, aren't on the surface something that might catch your eye as debatable or harmful to folks. Just going to start here. House Bill 132. The title is an act relating to student privacy. This is in the Education Committee currently in the House, in our General Assembly. And it says it's to ensure that student privacy exists in school restrooms, locker rooms, and showers. So then we get to the nub of things. Requires students born male to use only those facilities designated to be used by males, and the same for those born female, only to use the facilities designated to be used by females. Here's one point where the privacy thing comes into effect. Also, the assumption that transgender people, whether they are children, adolescents, or adults, are inherently predatory.
Right.
They are wanting to take a look at somebody else who's not wearing much or wearing anything.
Right. Like how many times, I mean, seriously, here's the funny part about all this to me, and I mean funny in an odd way. How many times in your entire life have you ever looked under a freaking bathroom stall?
Yeah.
Really?
Well, just
Fortunately,
to make sure
never.
Somebody wasn't there, maybe.
I mean, that's the
I don't want to walk in
thing
on someone.
Yeah, now that they've required that school resource officers all be armed, since we're paying for all of this stuff, are we now going to have them patrolling bathrooms and looking under stalls to make sure that people's private parts match the sign on the door? This is just
What
beyond
kind of
insanity.
message does this send our kids in the school too? That it's, I don't know. I think it's very frightening, especially to those kids
think of
that
the bullying.
right.
Yes.
It gives them license to bully, is what it does.
Right.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And even if you have a child who is not, transgender or part of the LGBT community in any way, I can't tell you how many times as a teacher, as a parent, what have you, that I've heard children make fun of other children using those terms.
Yes.
So now, what's to stop them from taking it a step further by, going into the bathroom on these kids? Because now they have a license to do it. It's just crazy.
Yeah, and it's got terrible shades of eugenics.
Mm-hmm.
It really does.
Oh, yes, definitely.
Checking somebody's chromosomes, keeping things on record. And once again, I come back to the privacy thing. So like I said, some Republican and Libertarian politicians made a big deal about the state, the government needs to stay out of our private lives. Things will go much better without them. But as soon as you get sex organs or genitals into the picture, okay, well, now we can just check and look and find out all kinds of things.
Right.
So there's some really great movement in the General Assembly by folks both in the House and the Senate on behalf of banning conversion therapy, where you take the gay out, as one person said. The one in the House is 199. Lisa Wilner, Patty Minter have been just stalwarts in advancing this kind of bill. It's currently in Health and Family Services, and this is what it is. It's a ban on quote-unquote mental health therapists engaging in conversion therapy with a person who is under 18 or an adult, either way. This is another thing that's been oversimplified, but there's plenty of evidence, if you take the time to read it, that shows you this is not effective. It leads to higher suicide rates, and it doesn't work. Sooner or later, this is going to, so to speak, squeeze out of you, and it can happen when you're an older adult and just wreak havoc on your life. Then there's House Bill 225. This is called an act related to civil rights. And this one has a great deal of detail to it. You might be put off when you look at this on the Legislative Research website or others. But the heart of it is this is amending our Kentucky Revised Statutes for the purpose of including in our Civil Rights chapter a prohibition against discrimination because of sexual orientation and gender identity. And so it very thoroughly goes through all the parts of the statutes that should be revised to reflect that. This is huge. There is currently federal legislation called the Equality Act, which is in the midst of, but this is our Kentucky version of that. So somebody who is bullied in school, whose privacy is violated, this person and their family will have recourse under this.
Oh, good. It's about time we had something like that.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
And with the irony of that, though, the irony of that being one of the bills in this session, combined with this flurry of anti-trans bills,
Yes.
just astounding. It's just astounding to me.
Yeah.
One is obviously the group of transgender bills, in my opinion, is nothing more than a license to hate.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's just mind-boggling. The ban on conversion therapy has bipartisan support.
Yeah.
That's got people from both sides. That's not just a one-party thing. So, and it looks like it's very likely to pass. So how you can pass that in the same year as you pass, okay, we're not going to do conversion therapy on them anymore, but we're still going to do all of this and prevent all of this. It's just craziness.
Yeah,
I don't get it.
When it comes to talking about our legislature, I just really have to check my cognitive dissonance at the door and just go, yep, that's what it is.
That is well said. Well, the House Bill 321 is one that I think Ann will have referred to. This was put forward in the House by Savannah Maddox. This is a bill which has gotten actually a lot of not only Kentucky but national attention. I'm not sure if this is good or bad, but so this is 321. It is to create a new section of our Kentucky Revised Statutes to prohibit medical professionals from performing surgeries or prescribing medications to a minor with the intent to alter the sex the child was assigned at birth. So here we go with chemical castration, surgical mutilation of a minor. And like I said in my first 3 points, it does not happen. This is not the way things are done. There is a lengthy, complicated, and very safe process that a child and parents or guardians can go through with licensed psychiatrists, medical professionals of all types. This is not a moment's, whim. I think I'm this or that, and so then I get mommy or daddy to call up my local, Nazi doctor and start doing something.
I mean, gender reassignment is a years-long process.
It's another example.
I've never seen a legislator. So it's so funny to me that this straight, white, wealthy woman who envisions herself some kind of champion of the oppressed because of the gun issue is actually the champion of opposing any faction of the population that she hates.
Yes.
I can't imagine living in a world where I hated so many people because they were different from me. I can't imagine.
Well, and it's at great variance with her equally passionately professed Christian faith.
That woman wouldn't know Brown Jesus if he stepped up and preached to her personally.
Or Jesus who hung up with a bunch of guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's red meat. Is all it is, guys. It's red meat for their base. They know better.
Exactly.
They know it's a bunch of BS, and it's sad.
What else we got?
It's hard to move past that one for
sure.
Yes, it is.
It's hard to believe that's not the end of the list.
Yes. And by the way, a couple other aspects to that. One is that House Bill 321 by Ms. Maddox would create a Class D felony and a civil cause of action if anybody were to do these things. Any medical professional were to be, quote-unquote, caught administering medication, performing surgeries on a minor, which they wouldn't be doing because we don't do that. But at the same time, it's a threat because the fact is that this can spread beyond minors. This is any hint of medication or surgery. That this would criminalize healthcare providers acting according to not only their training but their codes of ethics. So, for instance, I'm a registered nurse. I have a code of ethics for nurses that I follow. It goes across the United States. This is not just Kentucky. And the very first provision of the Nursing Code of Ethics is you will care for everyone, regardless of any characteristic, social, economic, physical, what their diagnosis is. There are no exceptions. It's a human being. You're a nurse. You do your thing. And it's one of the things that just causes me to start to shake because I would so love to go to jail for this. So, hard to get past that. But also, one other aspect of it, and this is reflected in some other legislation as well as public statements by our legislators, is that they want to protect, and I put that in strong quotation marks, protect employees who express opinions regarding gender identity or gender dysphoria. So in other words, as has been said before in this section of the podcast, it is a license to prosecute, i.e. hate people who support transgender children or adults. Because if they voice their support or their disapproval of some harmful action, they will be under this bill held liable for it. So you don't talk about it. And then we go back to what I seem to remember.
That's interesting.
Free speech.
I read it the opposite way. I read it that it meant that it was giving a license to hate that people who were against it were allowed to say they were against it openly, and you couldn't do anything to them.
You are
So
right.
That's really interesting.
You are right. I'm sorry. I think I twisted that around backwards. Thank you, Ann.
Oh,
It's interesting.
I wasn't sure. I thought I could have read it wrong.
Well, no, but it's interesting that correct interpretation you gave, as well as the version I gave, are both at the heart of some of this legislation.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's like you should not make a stance in favor of appropriately treating, not the versions that have been put forward, but appropriately treating a child or an adult who's been working with gender dysphoria. You can't support it, but then you can't be held liable, as you pointed out, for saying something against it. And so it's just, once again, privacy, free speech.
It's legalizing hate speech.
Yeah, wait a minute. A related one, actually, Ann, and thank you for bringing that up and clarifying that, is Senate Bill 90. It's an act that protects the exercise of medical ethics and diversity within the medical profession. Okay? And so what it does is, and I can't say thank you enough, Ann, for clarifying that, it prohibits discrimination against medical care providers who decline to perform procedures that violate their conscience. This is very broad.
Yeah.
And one of these procedures, of course, would be even legitimately evidence-based, practicedly performed surgery or hormone therapy.
Mm.
So,
well, and that gosh, the way that's written, it's so broad.
Exactly.
What that opens the door for is anybody can claim, oh, well, this is my religious belief.
Right.
And in my opinion, my religious belief supersedes the Hippocratic oath that I took.
Uh-huh.
So I'm not going to perform XYZ procedure. It's
right.
ridiculous.
Right. And even though if somebody really reads the medical ethics or the nursing code of ethics, it includes religion. It's just, there are no excuses. There are no exceptions. But this would legalize an individual healthcare professional making that exception.
That's crazy.
That is a slippery slope.
It is very. Now, of course, one thing that is tied in with, though it's not directly stated, is abortion. And abortion is conflated with transgender treatment, with any other seemingly horrific thing you can imagine. And so no one issue gets a fair shake because everything else is piled on top of it.
Right.
I really appreciate the chance to talk about this.
Yeah, and the other thing that's tied into that some people will think, well, that's basically innocuous, is even women who want to have their tubes tied.
Right.
Someone with a strong religious belief that, the only form of birth control should be either abstinence or the rhythm method, that have denied women the ability to get their tubes tied. I know somebody that happened to here in northern Kentucky.
Yeah, Saint E won't do tubal ligations or vasectomies.
Oh my!
Right.
Oh, I think some part of me had thought we were past that.
No,
that is barbaric.
Yeah, I mean, even in the case where they know that based on the mother's health history, she's at such high risk of death because if she gets pregnant again, they still will not do it. That woman has to go out of state just to get her tubes tied.
Yep.
Now, they're taking personal responsibility and doing what they're supposed to do, according to these people, and yet that's not good enough. They're still allowed to be denied that.
And once again, we're talking privacy, personal liberty, freedom, all of the big words that are used by some Republicans and some libertarians to say government stay out. And look at how far they are. They are up inside of us, literally.
Right.
Terrifying.
I mean, technically, a true, card-carrying libertarian should have no interest in the abortion issue at all, much less these other issues. When you start getting into these other issues, you've actually strayed into the territory of theocracy that they want.
Yes.
And make very clear it's their religion to supersede all others and their religious beliefs to determine what laws are passed. And it's just crazy.
If I may just offer
Sure.
one quick addition to that, and this is at the heart of everything I'm sure that's talked about in this podcast and all of the issues we face in Kentucky and in our country, is this personal at all? Do you know someone? Do you love someone? Have you met someone, bumped into someone at work who is facing these issues that are literally life and death?
Mm-hmm.
Someone may be a 61-year-old who has dealt with their whole life feeling like they're the only one in the world who was born a female, but they believe themselves to be male. How lonely that is, how isolating. And
I can't even imagine.
there's a 25-year-old who used to be a student of mine who now lives his true self, really, out of state, separated from family, but is living their true self. If you do not have any interactions with a person close enough for you to have feelings and beliefs about that, I don't think you have any right to speak about this like some of the legislators are. I do not think you have a single right. And if you have encountered this in your own life and you're a legislator, then I think there's a real serious psychological question about why you are coming out so strong against some of these things.
Absolutely.
But it's not. This is not to be worked out in the General Assembly.
Right.
Oh,
absolutely. Is there any resource that you can share for people out there, our listeners, that may need help working through issues, or they feel isolated, that they don't have a support system? Is there some place you can point them to get the support they might need?
Yeah, sure. One organization is called the Trevor Project, TREVOR. They do a lot of tremendous work with whether it's a phone-in or an email or whatever contact method it is for young people, for youth. There are several other organizations that are active in Kentucky and nationally. I'm going to add those to the resource list. And there is, for instance, here in Greater Cincinnati, there's the Cincinnati Children's Hospital Medical Center. There's a transgender clinic. Now, the youth there age out at age 24. And that's another real important question for Northern Kentucky and Greater Cincinnati, is where are they going to go after that?
Right.
Because the welcoming and ability to provide quality care is hardly to be found in our area.
I understand.
But I thank you so much for bringing that up, Amy, and I will put some of those resources on there. Some of them are hotlines. And just to know that somebody else is in your corner can mean the difference between life and death.
Correct.
Absolutely. Thanks for sharing
what
that.
about the fairness campaign? Would they potentially have other resources as well?
They would have some. I've been in contact with our own Northern Kentucky Fairness, which is managed by Bonnie Meyer, who's an instructor at Northern Kentucky University. She has pointed out that one difficulty that they are having is they're in the process of applying to be a 501c3. And that will prevent them from doing any kind of lobbying or direct political action. So that's another reason, actually, to keep track of and to be vocal about the bills that are in the General Assembly, because your legislators are the ones who are going to be able to make a difference on this, and you have to contact them. You have to lobby. As far as national attention, it's been getting a lot for banning conversion therapy. And so I think there's some national forces brought to bear on that, which is good. It's really difficult. I've done a lot of work and continue to do a lot of work on who are our allies locally across the river in Cincinnati, because it's so close. The Human Rights Campaign, for instance, it's the largest lobbying public education group for LGBT persons in the United States. Well, they don't even have a Kentucky office. There's an Ohio branch of HRC, but they don't have a separate Kentucky office. And that's because in the political equation, Ohio is a much more vital state in the coming presidential election. But they do have a person who's an Ohio HRC person who does monitor legislation in Kentucky. And I'll put his contact information there as well. He and I are going to have a meeting, talk about how we can beef up what we do in the political and advocacy area in Kentucky.
Wow.
Great.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being here today, Nisia. We appreciate your input and keeping watch on all these bills for us.
Yes, definitely. You need to
Thank
come
you.
back sometime.
Yeah.
I would love to.
Absolutely.
We'll be putting those resources in the notes for this podcast as well as on our Facebook page. As always, a good place to keep track of what's happening in the legislature and the bills in general is through the Legislative Resource Commission, the LRC, legislature.ky.org, I believe is the URL. And KET does an excellent job of keeping up with what's happening in the legislature. Every night that they are in session, they have a summary that's on like at 11 or 11:30. You can watch those online the following day, or on the weekend you can catch up and binge watch the entire week.
Hey, if you're feeling really sassy, you can go to Frankfurt and knock on your legislatures.
Amen.
Yes. Highly encourage you to go to Frankfurt, talk to your legislator, let them know how you feel about these things. Even if you're sure that they don't agree with you, doesn't matter. They're your legislator. They're supposed to be listening to you, whether they agree with you or not.
Sure.
So go to their office and say, I live in your district and I want to talk to my legislator. It's better actually if you call and make an appointment first, because you're more likely to actually get to talk to your legislator in most cases. But if they decide that they're not going to talk to you, go camp out.
Yeah.
Wait for them. There's also a lot of action days in Frankfurt where different groups have action days. And are you aware of any coming up?
Yeah, February the 19th, which actually happens to be the day when I get my right knee replaced. So I won't be there. But February 19th, Fairness of Kentucky is sponsoring a big lobby show up and speak your piece day in Frankfurt. You can check it out on their website. They've had lots of mentions of this on their social media also. It is a tremendous opportunity to do that. And I know it takes a little bit of something extra sometimes for any one of us to make the phone call, for us to put our piece into words. It can take a little something, but once you get started with it, I think you'll get hooked.
Yep. Excellent. All righty. Well, thank you so much. And we look forward to hearing from you again.
Thank you.
That's going to wrap it up for us here at Left in Kentucky. And hope you've enjoyed today's episode. Before we sign off, talk about some of the things we do have coming up. Coming up on this Thursday, February 6th, is our monthly Indivisible meeting at Acapulco on Turfway in Florence. And we'll be celebrating our 3rd anniversary in existence. Yay!
We're out of the terrible twos now.
Yep. Into the terrible threes. I don't know.
I was going to say, I always tell people, they say terrible twos, but threes are worse.
Yeah, threes are bad.
Well, we'll see, won't we?
But that's this Thursday at 6:30 at Acapulco, and we have a special guest, Miss Afton Ben from Indivisible. She's the regional coordinator or something like that for Kentucky and Tennessee. I can't remember what her official title is. I never remember what it is. But anyway, she's very interesting, a lot of fun, a ball of energy. So you definitely want to...
Ain't that the truth?
Yeah. You definitely want to come for the experience. Trust me. She's a treat. Afton's really interesting to listen to and a lot of fun. So that'll be a good time, and we'll be talking about what else we have coming up in the near future at that meeting. And speaking of the near future, coming up on March 5th, on Thursday, March 5th, we are having our Senate Candidate Forum in Northern Kentucky. We're having that at Southgate House Revival in Newport, Kentucky. And doors open at 5:30, and it will start at 6:30. And we will be hearing from four of the candidates. At this point, we have four confirmed. We have Amy McGrath, Mike Breuer, Charles Booker, and Jimmy Alsbrooks have all confirmed that they will be there, and it will be moderated by Rylan Barton, who is the Capitol correspondent with Kentucky Public Radio, and you may have heard him on NPR out of WVXU or one of the other NPR stations in Kentucky. So we're definitely looking forward to that. You have to get tickets for that. You can go to our Facebook page, and you'll find the event with the link to Eventbrite. And you do need tickets. They don't cost anything. They're free, but we do suggest getting tickets because seating is limited, and we do anticipate that this will be a full house and will sell out. So we'll have a couple of hours of questions from 6:30 to 8:30. There'll be a little break in there for people to get something to drink, go to the restroom, whatever. And then after 8:30, the candidates will be available and wandering around, probably to meet people and talk to you individually if you like, as part of the crowd. So highly recommend you make plans to be there, March 5th. What else do we have coming up?
That's enough, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, really.
Well, Monday we'll be looking at the Iowa, see what happens there, I guess.
Oh, that's right. Monday is the caucus. Of course, this will probably post on Tuesday, so the Iowa caucus will probably already be over by the time you listen to this. So it'll be interesting to see what that is. I'm sure we'll be talking about that on our next podcast.
Our next podcast will touch a little federal.
Yeah. We are in the General Assembly. We're past the 18th day of the legislative session. So we are going into the second month. Again, this is the 60-day calendar that we do every other year in Kentucky. And so we're, about a third of the way through?
I anticipate going down to Frankfurt sometime in the next 2 weeks, so I may have a story to tell on the next podcast.
Oh, good.
Yay.
Yeah, look forward to that. I do have a little bit of bail money saved up if you need it.
Good.
So you feel free to call.
Now, I'm going to be a good girl. You know that.
Yeah. In February, the last day for bill requests is on the 21st of February. So after that, we shouldn't have any additional bill requests. And then the beginning of March, the 2nd and 3rd is the last days for new bills to be presented in the House and the Senate. Of course, as we have seen in the past, it is not unheard of them to take an existing bill, strip out all of the language, and replace it with something completely different that has nothing to do with the original bill.
I anticipate they do something like that. I just do.
I can't believe they would do anything like that. Ever.
My crystal ball says they're going to screw with it.
All right, so we got that. So we got that coming up. I miss anything?
Thank you, honey, for listening.
I
don't think so. All right. And that's going to wrap it up for this week in Left in Kentucky. And we thank you for joining us. Look forward to talking to you next week. Until then, this is Roberto Henriquez.
Amy Ferguson.
And Dickerson.
And thank you for listening. Left in Kentucky, the podcast of Indivisible, Northern Kentucky.